with a phrasing that goes a little bit like this.
You know what? We've heard you. We'll need to pass it along to the property owner, and then he'll pass it on back to us, and then we'll figure out what to do.
And we're back, yo people of YouTube, welcome to my channel. I'm Ishe Jindu or Zinyati, your cheat sheet to everything you need to know about in the world of real estate. And I've heard your cries, I've heard your calls, I've seen the bison-shaped bat signal in the sky, and you guys want me to start dropping off nuggets of information about coming into the rental market and not getting played, whether it's your first time renting or you're coming at it again. This video just might give you the tips you need to make sure your rental experience goes along smoothly and comfortably and you don't get yourself played. I'm gonna be dropping off some tips and tricks about the best avenue to go about looking for a rental property that can save you a world of hurt along the way. And for those of you who stick with this video all the way to the end, there's going to be a secret tip just for you, so make sure you make it. Are you ready? Subscribe for real. Like this video, share this video, and as always, let's get into it. First things first, when you get into the real estate rental market as a tenant, the most important thing that you need to bring with you on all your interviews and meetings and anything real estate rental related is the mindset and presentation of you being the price, and being the price in such a way that the landlord is going to see it and is going to be wanting you to be their tenant over anyone else who might want the property. A lot of prospective tenants who come into the market always have the mindset that they're at the beck and whim and call of the landlord, not understanding that the balance of power is pretty much equal in these situations. The landlord wants to make sure he gets the best tenant possible, and you also, as the prospective tenant, need to ensure that you're getting the best property with the best landlord as possible. And if you aren't absolutely sure that you're a prize of a tenant, don't worry about it. I'm going to be releasing a video anytime from now that goes over everything you need to do and accomplish to make sure that you're going to be an ideal trophy tenant that any landlord would love to show off. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button to be informed when that video comes out. After you're fully aware and have done everything you need to do to ensure that you are absolutely a prize of a tenant, you need to realize that as the prize, you deserve a winner. There are no participation trophies in this game. If a landlord wants a top tier tenant, they're going to have to be a top tier landlord and also have a top tier property. But on today's video, we're not going to be focusing on everything you need to do to evaluate a property to make sure it's the property of your dreams, because that's subjective, and most of you, I would guess, know exactly what you want in the rental property of your dreams. What I'm going to be talking about today is the often neglected, probably more important consideration to how you pick a rental property. And that's going to involve screening your landlord. And yes, you heard me right. Screening your landlord. There's often this unfounded assumption and stereotype that landlords are the only people capable and the only people who are supposed to be screening you as a tenant. But in actual fact, you as a tenant need to screen the landlord just as much as they have to screen you. Because at the end of the day, if the contracts are signed, you're both going to be binded to each other for potentially a very long time. So you want to make sure you get into the contract knowing exactly how the other half of the contract is going to act with you. Always remember, the agreement and relationship you have with your landlord is exactly what's going to dictate how much of the house is going to be turned into your home and how comfortable you're going to be in it. So make sure you screen effectively and follow everything that's in this video. Essentially, screening your landlord isn't that hard of a thing to do as long as you know exactly how to do it. And as we're going to be going over in this video, there are 4 key areas that you can use and pay special attention to whenever you negotiate and communicate with your landlord that will give you a better understanding on whether or not they're a landlord worth you, or you'd rather head back into the market and look for someone and some property that both give you exactly what you want. Always keep in mind that when it comes to real estate, a bad deal is worse than no deal at all. The greatest determining factor on whether or not your rental property is going to be a palace or a prison comes in the form of your rental or lease agreement. The contract you sign isn't just there for the benefit of your landlord in making sure you know how much you need to pay and when you need to pay it by, but as a matter of fact, the contract you sign is both the best thing to have for the landlord as well as the best thing to have for you as a tenant. In the same way, the landlord of the property can use the contract you signed to hold you accountable for doing certain actions at specific times and keep to certain obligations. You as the tenant can do exactly just that. And in fact, you need to do it. Both you and the landlord can change at any moment, but what's written in the contract is an absolute constant. Nothing is going to protect you more from a shady and potentially changing landlord than having everything signed in ink in a contract. So make sure any particularly important issues that you want to make sure are consistently addressed throughout your rental tenancy are upheld through the contract. Number 2, screen your landlord's personality. First impressions aren't everything, but they are important. In this case and most cases, judging the book by its cover is probably the smartest thing you could do. You don't want to get 300 pages into the book to realize it's a lousy book. Take every good first impression about your landlord with a grain of salt. After all, they're also trying to impress you, and take every bad thing you notice as a potential prophecy that this is only going to get worse with time. If they're bad at responding with you before you sign the contract, at the time period that they're most likely to be on their best behavior, you can bet money that by the time you sign the contract and you're both locked into the situation, they are not going to be replying you on time, and if something important comes up, you might be on your own. Pay special attention to how they communicate with you. Are they respectful? Do they look organized? Are they transparent about property defects? Because every property has a defect, but if your landlord is only focusing on telling you everything that's good with your property, those defects that weren't mentioned just might come back and bite you in a place that hurts. These are all critical areas that will inevitably influence your stay on the rental property, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, and you need to pay particular attention to the details that you want. If you're someone who loves their privacy, you need to know that your landlord isn't just going to be barging in onto your property at any moment or scheduling renovations without communicating with you for a time that works with you. If you have some characteristic that's particularly important to you, make sure you screen your landlord against it. After that, the third way to properly screen your landlord is to evaluate the property itself. But let me make it clear, there's a difference between evaluating a property for what you want to be in the property and looking at a property in order to screen your landlord. When you're looking at a property with the intent of seeing if this is a property you like, you often just have a checklist of what you want and what you don't want. But when you're looking at a property with the intent of screening your landlord, you need to put on your Sherlock Holmes hat and look at things a little more clearly and with a little more attention to detail. Sure, the home might have all the rooms you want, a swimming pool, and enough space for your entire crew. But when you pay closer attention, you need to start looking at small, tiny details like the state of the gutter, the state of the flooring in the house, if there are prolonged growing cracks in the walls. These are all signs that the landlord doesn't exactly pay particular attention to renovating the property when problems arise. And sure, it seems harmless now, but when you get to a situation where something bad has happened due to prolonged negligence, you're gonna have a bad time. But you also want to keep a keen eye on the quality of renovations. If they repainted the property, was it painted properly or was it a shoddy job? That implies that the landlord is more focused on keeping cash in his wallet than giving you a good rental experience. Remember, these things often start small, but when they progress into things that can affect you, you're gonna have the exact same treatment as you're getting with the small stuff. So you want to get into it knowing that you're going to be treated properly, efficiently, and responsibly. And finally, landlord screening technique number 4, which I have personally dubbed the ultimate reverse Uno card on any landlord out there. Go and ask for referrals about your landlord. Exactly. In the same way that landlords want your rental history, want to know where you've come from, how you acted there, why you left, you should also play that game and get a firm understanding of who was the last tenant in the landlord's property. Did they have a good experience? Why did they leave? And ultimately, what's their review of the property? And more importantly, what's their review of the landlord. No one's going to know more about the landlord than the people who've come before you and no longer have any obligations to play nice with the landlord. 9 times out of 10, the landlord is going to whisper sweet nothings in your ear, tell you how they're never going to neglect you, how they're always there when you need help, how you can always sort out any issues over a phone call, how you can have pets over and inside the house, and everything you want to hear to sign the dotted line. But as long as it's not in the contract and you don't know this person in the long term, you don't want to try that. What would best give you a proper understanding of who the person you're interacting with at the opposite side of the table is communicating to someone who's been there, done that in your exact situation. How do they feel about the landlord? Was he responsive? Was he active? Or was he just laying in the background, and whenever a tenant had a problem, it would take him 2 to 3 months to figure it out? You want to know these things. And that's my list. If you've liked this video and you've learned something new, like, comment, subscribe, do all that to help my analytics. And if you feel like there's something I missed in order to evaluate and properly screen your landlord, put it in the comments below. I would love to update this video with brand new information down the line in order to keep helping you guys out. As well, as you've probably guessed, there's going to be a whole other video on how landlords can screen tenants. I can't just play for one side, gotta be there for everyone else. And for all of you who've made it this far, let me hit you with that 5th hidden tip on how to screen your landlord. Hidden tip number 5 for how to screen your landlord is that sometimes the landlord is the least of your problems. In many cases, especially in this day and age, a lot of landlords are opting to go with a property management agent in order to take over all the duties of managing the property and, most importantly, managing you as a tenant. So you might get into a situation where you sit down with the landlord, have a friendly conversation, only to realize later on that you're probably never going to communicate one-on-one with the landlord owner of the property because they've set up an arrangement with the property agent for them to do all the duties and handle you on a day-to-day basis. So in some situations where a property manager is put on the property instead of the property owner as the landlord, you'll probably be made aware of it. It's not like it's hidden, it's not that it's secret, but you do need to understand the dynamic. Understand that when a property agency acts as a property manager for the property, you are probably never going to communicate with the landlord owner of the property, the original landlord of the property, and you're most likely going to have to pass on all your grievances and interact the most with the property manager through the property agency. And in such a situation, it's often more important that you lay out and communicate all the other things we've talked about before with the property agency, in that you understand what exactly is their role in this situation. Do they handle everything from financials to renovations to you wanting to do something different to the property? And how exactly do they communicate with the landlord? You don't want to get into a situation where everything you want to bring up is always closed off with a phrasing that goes a little bit like this.
You know what, we've heard you, we'll need to pass it along to the property owner and then he'll pass it on back to us and then we'll figure out what to do.
In layman's terms, that's just saying your problem is never going to be sorted and the landlord of the property is using us as a brick wall more than a gatekeeper. So pay particular attention to that. But anyway, I've been your host, Ishe Jindu Ozinyati. Subscribe for real, like this video, share this video. Ishe Jindu at ivafrica.com for any business inquiries. As well, go to my website, ivafrica.com, if you want to check out what I'm doing and what I've got in store. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Go watch another video. Peace.